everyone, and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Pearse McLaughlin. Hello, Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be reacting to last weekend's opening games of the Scottish Premier League. We'll also be reacting to all the latest transfer news from around Europe. And at the end of the podcast, Pearse will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So we'll start off with the opening week of the Scottish Premier League. So that is now back in action. So first two games were played on Saturday the 2nd of August, and the results finished Kilmarnock 2, Livingston 2, Motherwell 1, Rangers 1. And then on Sunday, the 3rd of August, we had three matches, which were Falkirk 2, Dundee United 2, Dundee 1, Hibs 2, Celtic 1, St Mirren 0. And then lastly, to finish off the final, the first week, yesterday, Monday the 4th of August, we had one match which finished Hearts 2, Aberdeen 0. So Pearse, the return of the Scottish Premier League, which match stands out to you the most?
If I'm going to probably pick one match, it has to be Motherwell 1, Rangers 1. Just the fact is Russell Martin's first game in competitive. No competitive. I mean, could obviously Champions League qualifiers, but in terms of competitive league fixture, and that's the third season in a row that Rangers have failed to win an opening day. An unwanted start. Also, they got off to probably the perfect start with Tavernier scoring within 10 minutes. And then as the game wore on, especially the second half, Motherwell seemed to get the ascendancy. They played really nice football, and they created chance after chance. And there's a lot of Rangers players for me that weren't prepared to do the dirty work, especially for the equaliser late on. Down that right side, Dowell and Tavernier, the defending was a bit shabby, and they didn't bust a gut to get back. And even if you're getting dominated, which they were at that time in terms of creating chances, because Motherwell played some really nice football, and if they actually had someone that could put the ball in the back of the net, because they created so many chances, which is a worrying thing for Rangers. Obviously, same happened kind of similar to in the two legs over Panathinaikos. They got Rangers just clinical, which Panathinaikos weren't, but defensively, they seem a bit suspect at the moment. Obviously, they're still trying to get signings in, but for me, desire, the willingness to run back, and obviously Russell Martin said that in his post-match conference, that his words were that a lot of people just kind of go back into self-preservation mode, which is a damning thing to say in the opening weekend of the Scottish Premiership. And this is the manager who's been in the door a matter of just less than 2 months in terms of pre-season and obviously competitive fixtures. And if he's saying that, and obviously I think a lot of these players have been under this, thrown manager under the bus before, and a lot of Rangers fans are pretty much agreeing with him. But obviously, like you say, I thought new manager for Motherwell as well. Thought it was really good football. In terms of the actual match itself, I thought what an advert for Scottish football, because the fact is you've got a team like Motherwell, who didn't play Lennon Milliken, obviously speculation around his future potentially going abroad, his last year's contract. So, and obviously there's a turnover of the staff and players there as well. So you never know what you're going to get with Motherwell. But if that's what they're going to get under the new manager, they can have a pretty exciting season. Because if they play football like that every week, then they could easily make the top 6 this season, because that was a really dominant display. And if they can put the ball in the back of the net more clinically, then they probably could have took 3 points at the weekend. But yeah, no, for me that was a standout fixture. And also I think we've got to talk about as well, obviously, the game last night, which was obviously Hearts 2, Aberdeen 0. I thought Hearts dominated Aberdeen. I think McInnes is obviously they strolled through the League Cup group stage, and obviously probably the biggest fixture of the weekend was Hearts and Aberdeen because of the size of the clubs. And obviously McInnes, it was the McInnes derby because obviously he used to manage at Aberdeen for like 5-6 seasons. And I don't really think Aberdeen lay a glove on Hearts. I thought it was a very dominant performance. And I don't know if you've seen Shanklin goal that was just offside. What a strike that was, by the way. But
So yeah,
yeah, I think with that new contract, I know he never scored in the game apart from that. It was obviously disallowed, but I think he looks a lot sharper. He could be a big player for Hearts this season. I think Hearts should be aiming to finish third, potentially second, if they can potentially split the top two, which it's a long season, but promising signs at the start of the season. But I'm so glad that Scottish football's back because what a weekend it was.
yeah, I agree. It was a very busy, very exciting weekend for the opening weekend. But I agree with you. That was my standout match. Not just because of the result, but the actual. I don't know if you watched the game, but I watched the game and it was really entertaining. Motherwell got a new manager, Jans Berto, his name is, and I was actually really impressed with the way they played. They were really possession based. They were trying to play it from the back. It was very risky, but they managed to pull it off. And you don't really see teams like that when it comes to the two big Glasgow teams. You don't see teams play like that. They pressed high up the pitch as well when Rangers had the ball. And in terms of the actual match, I thought Rangers were actually lucky to get a draw. I thought Motherwell deserved to win. They were much more, aggressive than Rangers. And towards the end, I thought it felt like Motherwell were going to be the team that were going to get the 3 points. Um, in terms of Rangers, though, I mean, they did go 1-0 up in the game, but they had a lot of the ball, but didn't really create anything, even after they scored. Um, which was really disappointing in terms of from a Rangers perspective. And obviously, the big talking point of that game was after it. As you just said, Pearse, Russell Martin came out after the game and he was really, really scathing of the players. Said things like, "We were lucky to get a point." He said he was really disappointed and hurt. Uh, and then he said things like he think the club has had a problem over the last few years. He says that when it's going well, he thinks the players love it. They think it's fine. This is a brilliant place to be. But when it's not going well, um, that's when he thinks there's a default at the club because people start. He thinks that the players start to think about themselves and sort of hide. And that's something he says that can't happen. So it was very scathing at the end of the match. Some people agreed with it, some people didn't. But to do that, the big thing is, and everybody was going to say it after that, it's the fact that he's done that on the first weekend, the first game of the season, to come out like that. Usually, things like that happen during the season or at the end of the season, not the first game of the season. So there's two ways to look at it. There's one that it gives the players the wake up call that they need, and number two, it's the fact that he doesn't like the squad, and you know he's he's frustrated that he's not got all the players in that he wants at the moment. So very big comments to make. Um, you know, to do something like that. Obviously, it's going to be controversial, but it was very brave for him to come out and say that. But yeah, that's Rangers, and that's another thing as well. That's actually Rangers for 3 years in a row now. They haven't won their opening game of the season, which is quite crazy as well. So again, that's Rangers off to a sort of slow start. And then you just mentioned there in terms of the other games, you said there about the Hearts game, which was a very deserved victory for Hearts. With Derek McInnes' first game in charge. But I just wanted to obviously with Hearts, they've got a new sort of owner. He's not the majority owner. He's a minority owner. Tony Bloom, who owns Brighton. the Premier League. So over the summer, he took a 29% stake at Hearts. So he gave an interview over the weekend. Pearse, I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. He said that Hearts have a very good chance of finishing at least second this season. And he's also got his eyes on winning lots of trophies during his time at the club, and obviously wants to break that dominance of Celtic and Rangers. What do you think? Do you think he's right in saying that, or do you think it's too too adventurous? What do you think?
The reason why he's a minority owner, Tom, is because if he was a majority owner, he couldn't compete in Europe for Hearts. Because obviously Brighton is his main asset, and obviously he owns Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium. But in terms of analytics company, you've seen the progress he's done in Belgium for Brighton. He's took them on leaps and bounds, got them up for Championship, and he's got them into the Europa League a couple of seasons ago under Franco De Zerbi. And they're consistently a top 10, top 12 side in the Premier League. They play really exciting football. They bring in young talent for pennies and then sell them on for profit, most noticeably to Chelsea. But, I mean, like they unearth germs and then sell them on for a massive fee, and that's kind of their model. In terms of Hearts, it's a different ballgame up in Scotland because you've got Celtic dominating, Rangers kind of like a sleeping giant. Obviously, they were dominant in the 90s, but two massive clubs. And I think to break those two is a massive ask, and you think they're doing it this season when Hearts finished in the bottom six last year. It's a really big task, and obviously Rangers have got potential Champions League football this year. Celtic have Champions League football potentially as well. So, and the amount of money they make from that as well. So I think in terms of financially and just the global fan base of both clubs, I think it's a really tough ask. I don't think they will break the top two this season, and I don't think they will win a league anytime soon if Celtic and Rangers are run properly and they push on every year. But saying that, if you've got Hearts up there competing, Hearts is a massive club, Edinburgh-based side, and if you have competing, you've got Aberdeen. It's good for the Scottish game, and I think it's refreshing to see an owner, a minority owner, come out and say in an interview that his goal isn't just to compete, his goal is to try and win the league title. That should be the aim, to be honest. If you're investing money and if they use the analytic systems to get managers, to get players. I never worked out with Neil Critchley. I think McInnes is a better manager. And I think they'll do well with Hearts. And I think they'll improve year in, year out. But I think similar to Brighton, I think if you get unearthed gems, and you sell them on for a profit, I think not many players will stay at Hearts for 3-4 seasons like they do at Brighton, for example. And they won't get massive fees like they do at Brighton, but they'll create a model where they get players from lesser leagues around the world, and they'll showcase them in the Scottish Premiership, and they'll get them competing for Europe consistently. In terms of European, not just European qualifiers, European group stage football. I think that should be the aim for Hearts. Whether it be Conference League, Europa League, and if they can do that consistent on a regular basis, and then turn over their best players in terms of for a massive profit and make the club sustainable, that should be the aim. In terms of winning league titles, I think it's a bit too much to ask. The last side to do that was Aberdeen in the 80s, so it's a long time coming. It's someone other than Celtic Rangers win the league title, but and in this season at least, I don't see it happening. But you never know. But it's exciting and refreshing to hear those words from the owner, Tony Bloom.
Yeah, I agree as well. Obviously, he's putting his hands in his pocket to this Hearts. So he's obviously got confidence in what he says, because he wouldn't be investing if he didn't. But it's obviously very simple as to why Hearts are were really interested in Tony Bloom becoming part of the club, because obviously, as we know, Tony Bloom's company, Jamestown Analytics, they assist a lot with recruitment, and it's been also notably known with Brighton, as you just said, the amount of players that they've had over the years that they've sold for big fees. I mean, they've sold some players for over 100 million. So it just shows that his company have been really, really, successful in that recruitment side. So that's obviously what Hearts have looked at, because they know Hearts obviously know that they don't have the revenue and the money to go out and spend big money on players that will get them that success. They also have to go down a different route, and that is um, buying players from around the globe for small fees and then selling them on for big fees. Sometimes that'll work out, sometimes it won't. But they believe that using Tony Bloom's company, that signing these players, the majority of them will work out. And then if they do sign good players, it's going to mean that the squad will improve, and they'll have more chance of being successful. I mean, obviously Tony Bloom's Brighton side, also although they've not won that many trophies, they've been competing at the top half of the Premier League for a long time. Tony Bloom's also got a minority stake in Union Saint-Gilloise in Belgium. They won the title just recently for the first time in 90 years. So stuff like that will give Hearts confidence. And for the comments that he made, I don't see any problem with it. He obviously backs himself. That with his experience and with his resources, that he can get Hearts, being winning trophies and being successful. And in terms of Hearts, they actually do have a lot going for them. They've got a good fan base. I've always been a fan of their stadium, Tynecastle. I think it's a really, really good stadium to have when you've got the fans on the side. Really, really tough place to go. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how Hearts and Tony Bloom work together. And we'll see where they go for this season and the seasons to come. But I just wanted to touch on that point. But we'll move on now from the Scottish Premier League. So that's the first week done. We'll move on to transfers now. So we'll discuss transfers from Scotland first. So Pearse, I just want your thoughts on, just before we started recording this, Celtic announced the signing of centre back Jahmai Simpson-Pusei from Man City. So he's a very young defender. He's not played many games, but Celtic have confirmed that signing on loan until the end of the season. So what's your thoughts on that, Pearse?
Well, I think this one that's been mumming around for a week or so. I think obviously, like you say, he's not played many first team games for Manchester City, but he's obviously a promising young player that's came through the academy system, and you've only got to look back at Celtic's track record from Man City. Jason Denayer, Patrick Roberts, Scott Sinclair, just to name a few. Dedrick Boyata, Georges Samaras, like most of them have been very successful. John Guidetti as well played for Manchester City, so Celtic's track record from getting players from Manchester City have been pretty successful. Jeremy Frimpong as well. Yeah, so I think they'll have a successful season. It's obviously an option to buy, young player, highly rated at Man City, and he's another option to centre half for Celtic. Have lost two centre halves this summer, and Mike Nawrocki and Gustav Lagerbielke. And obviously it looks like Stephen Welsh might be going away as well. So I don't know where he plays on the left or the right. I'm assuming he plays on the right, maybe back up to currently Carter Vickers, but that then gives you Trusty, Scales, Carter Vickers, and Jamal Simpson-Pusey.
Yeah.
I think that's how you say his name. But I think for me, I think if it's anything like the other Man City players that Celtic have recruited in the last number of years, I think it'll be a success. And obviously this will give him massive exposure to real men's football and winning mentality in terms of Celtic going for titles, competing in the Champions League. So yeah, I think it's a good signing for both parties.
Yep, it's just a signing for the season, because I don't see Celtic having Simpson-Pusey for the years to come. It's just obviously for the season, because obviously Man City, they rate him very highly, as you said. There is no buy option there, so he'll come to Celtic, and I don't know the agreement in terms of amount of games that he'll all play. Um, man, man, I think that he'll probably will play a lot, because I think Man City um will have had guarantees from Celtic that he will play a big part in the season, because obviously that's what Man City want. He's not an experienced defender. He's only played one or two games for the first team at Man City, but Pep Guardiola has talked about it before and said that he's a very exciting centre back. Brendan Rodgers discussed him a little bit at the weekend, saying that he's very good, progressing with the ball at his feet, which is something that a Celtic defender needs to have. Because obviously, as you know, Celtic have a lot of the ball, especially in the league. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does. It does remind me a lot of the signing of the likes of Jason Denayer and Dedrick Boyata. Um, you know, and obviously Simpson-Pusey looks at it as an opportunity to start his career, really. So I'll be interested to see how he does this season. But yeah, that's Celtic confirmed a signing for the season. And in terms of Rangers, they have been busy this summer. They confirmed another signing yesterday, which was midfielder Oliver Antman, who has signed from Dutch club Go Ahead Eagles. So he had a really good season last season for the club. Scored a few goals and got the most assists in the league in the Eredivisie. So, what's your thoughts on that, Pearse? You know much about him? What's your thoughts?
I don't know much about him, but I know he's quite a promising player coming out of Holland. Like you mentioned, the top assister last season in the Eredivisie. I know he's a Finland internationalist. I know he's 23, 24 years of age. Very promising young player. He's quick with the ball, and he's a goal threat. So, and I think Rangers' problem area for the last number of years has been that right wing. Apart from last season, they had Vaclav Cherny on loan. But obviously, they knew that they could not make that permanent because the fee was going to be so high. It just made it unfeasible for the age as well that Cherny was at. And you've seen it the weekend, they're playing Kieran Delt right wing. That's just a stopgap until they can get the man in, which is now Ant-Man. No relation to the Marvel comic, but just getting a wee dig in there.
I knew you were going to say that.
We have to keep it comical in this podcast. Bit of humour, I like humour, but no, I think he's a very good player. I think it's 3 million rise 84. It's a pretty severe outlay for Rangers. And I think it's needed. I think that Russell Martin's getting these men in, and I think the last 3 weeks of this window for Celtic and for Rangers is going to be vital. And obviously, I think that signing was in mind of obviously the Champions League qualifiers coming up for Rangers. Obviously tonight the first leg, and then obviously next week. But I think for me that's a very important and significant signing that Rangers needed in that forward area because they're lacking severe firepower at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know much about him until obviously Rangers were interested in him, and it's actually quite impressive that he got the most assists in the Dutch league, because obviously the Dutch league is known for a lot of very good attacking players. So that's quite impressive. And yeah, it's another player that Rangers need. To be fair, going forward, I think they are lacking in the attacking options, especially I think in pace. I don't know if he is fast or not. I'm not quite sure on that, but definitely another attacking option the Rangers needed. And he is obviously a permanent signing, so I'm sure Rangers will be happy with that. And interesting to see how he does. It does look like he's going to play out on the right hand side, as you said. Um, so yep. So it's all starting kind of come together a wee bit for Rangers in terms of their signings. I do expect them to make more before the window closes. So yeah, that's another one for Rangers in the door. Oliver Antman permanently joins Rangers. And then just before we move on to the transfer window around Europe, I just want to quickly touch on Celtic and Rangers as two potential Champions League ties. So Celtic, in the playoff round, they have the potential of playing either Kairat Almaty or Slovan Bratislava. So the winner of Kairat versus Slovan Bratislava will play Celtic in the playoff round. What's your thoughts on that, Pearse?
Well, Celtic played Slovan Bratislava last season. They won fairly comfortably, so I think it's a favourable draw for Celtic. I think they should expect to qualify for the league phase yet again.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's I think it's a draw that Celtic will be happy with. As you said, they played Slovan Bratislava last season, for example, and they comfortably won that match. So yeah, I think Celtic will have high hopes of reaching the Champions League phase again this season. And then Rangers, they play today against Victoria Pilsen in the first leg to get to the playoff. And if Rangers manage to navigate the two ties against Victoria Pilsen in the playoff, they will play either Red Bull Salzburg or Club Brugge. What's your thoughts on that one, Pearse?
I think Rangers tonight, I think they should advance over Victoria Pilsen. I think they're a better side than those two, but I think obviously you mentioned Club Brugge and who's the other side?
Red Bull Salzburg.
Red Bull Salzburg. I think both of those sides are a step up, and I think that'll be a pretty tough task for Rangers because Club Brugge, we all know they're pretty much the dominant side in Belgium, and then Salzburg's similar in Austria. Red Bull group that's Celtic have played a number of times in the last couple of years in Europa League, Champions League. So I think for me, I think Rangers should progress to the playoff, but I think it'll be very difficult if they make it in the league phase because I think either of those sides is a really tough task. But yeah, again, it depends on who Rangers bring in the next couple of weeks because they need to get players in fast because at this current moment, in the current time of recording, I would see Rangers making it to the playoff but not making the Champions League group phase.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's what you. That's a big one to make, and that might come back to haunt you. I don't know, but yeah, obviously, Rangers need to get through the tie against Victoria Pilsen first. If they do, that playoff potential ties between Club Brugge and Red Bull Salzburg, that's going to be very tough for them. Two very experienced European sides. Yeah, it's going to, and I think they're going to have to improve definitely a lot more the next few weeks to even have a chance. Because at the moment I don't see them having enough to get to the Champions League. But the one thing Rangers do have on their side is that home crowd at Ibrox. I think any team in Europe will always struggle to play at Ibrox. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that one goes. We'll talk about that as it comes.
Both Clem, you just said the same thing.
What did I say?
Rangers might not make it.
Did I just say that as well? No, do you know what? I'll change it. If I did say that, right, any Rangers fans watching, I'll say I think they will make it, right? So you don't think they will, I think they will. So there you go. So I'll make it balanced.
Well, bold claim, but I agree with Pearse.
Just forget I said it. So that's that covered. We'll now move on into transfers in Europe. So the last time we recorded, it was quite quiet in terms of transfers, but it's picked up quite a lot the last week or so. So we'll start off with the confirmed ones. We'll start off with Tottenham. Tottenham have confirmed the signing of Joao Palhinha on loan from Bayern Munich. So Joao Palhinha has played the Premier League before, for Fulham, and then he moved to Bayern Munich, but now he's back in the Premier League with Tottenham. So what's your thoughts on that one, Pearse?
It's a massive signing. Got him loan with option to buy for €30 million, and obviously Bayern Munich signed him last year for €50 odd million. I think it was €58 million, so about £50 million. and they were chasing Palhinha. Remember the move collapsed on deadline day in the January season before when he was at Fulham, and he was devastated. He had to go back and finish the season at Fulham. Then he eventually got his move, and then when he signs for Bayern Munich, he barely featured. He was like a backup rotation player, which seems mad. And obviously he's coming back to a league that he's played for before. And when he was playing for Fulham, he was one of the standout players in his position in the entire league. So I think Tottenham need bodies at midfield because like last season they were so open. They only had Bissouma as like a holding midfielder, and I think let's be honest, like Paulinho is a step up than Bissouma. Um, and I think for me it's a no-brainer. I think it's a brilliant signing.
I agree. I think it's a brilliant signing because I saw him at Fulham, and I was always impressed when I saw him. He was really a tough tackler. I think he had the most interceptions in the league the last season before he left, or was it the season before? I can't remember, but that's a really impressive stat. A very experienced player in the Premier League. And I think for Tottenham, it's a really smart one. And I think he will do well. At Tottenham, I think it's a really really good piece of business. Um, and then we'll talk about Al Nassr from Saudi. They signed Joao Felix from Chelsea. So again, that's Joao Felix on the move. This time it's permanent. One of the most confusing careers I think I've ever come across, Joao Felix, but that's him now at Al Nassr. He joins up with his fellow countryman Cristiano Ronaldo. So what's your thoughts on that one, Pearse?
I'm genuinely bizarre. I'm the same as you. Like, see, his career is like bonkers.
Yeah, it's
But
it's a, it's a shame.
he had one season when he first broke through at Benfica, right? And he got 120 million move to Atletico, and you're like, it doesn't suit that style of football. It never really worked
I
out.
know.
He goes on loan to Barcelona, goes on loan to Chelsea, signs for Chelsea permanently. He goes on loan to AC Milan, didn't work out, and now he's at Al Nassr, and he's still only 25. It's mad. Like, for me, I think the only reason he's went there is because of Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah,
It's no reason because whenever I see him play, I think technically he's very, very good, but he's so inconsistent. He's not strong. He's not really lightning quick, and in the big games, he doesn't really. He's no clinical enough to be a striker. You don't know what position he really is. You know he's a very good technical footballer, but for me, his career just hasn't reached the heights that everyone thought he was because I think when he broke through at Benfica, he's thinking the sky's the limit. But for me, what a bizarre career! And he's a 25-year-old journeyman. That's what he is.
yeah, I know. Yeah, it's as you said, he had that season at Benfica. He was it was brilliant. I mean, he scored goals, assists. He was really young at the time, and Portugal were so excited by him. You know, um, he had such high hopes, and then I actually remember when he went to Atletico Madrid for that amount of money, and I just knew it wouldn't work out there because we all know Simeone, we all know the way he plays. He's not. Joao Felix, uh, I felt he had to, if he was going to move, he had to go to a team that played a style of football that suited him. And I just think when he went to Atletico, I just knew that would work out. It didn't. And since then, he's just going backward. It's just been going backwards for him. I mean, I remember reading something about him like a couple of weeks ago about some of the managers that I've worked with him, and they've said that he's very difficult to work with. Not in terms of like his personality, I don't think it is, but I think it's in terms of when they want to play a certain way in a system. That they find it hard to get him into the team. And as you said, Pearse, I don't know his position as well. I mean, I know he's an attacking player, but I don't know if he's right, left, striker, centre forward. I don't know. So yep. So that's him now away to Saudi to Al Nassr. I'm not sure how he's going to go from over there. I really don't. Um, uh, I don't know if he'll come back to Europe. I think he will, but I think he's going to have to, really nail himself down at Al Nassr and do well there. Because there was actually talk of him before he went to Al Nassr, going back to Benfica, which I thought actually made sense. But he's rejected that and went to Al Nassr. But anyway, yeah, Joao Felix to Al Nassr. We'll see how that goes. And yet, and going back to Tottenham, I know a bit of big news coming out of Tottenham that we definitely have to discuss. It was announced at the weekend that Tottenham forward Heung-Min, the captain, he did a press conference in South Korea. That's where Tottenham were on the pre-season tour. And he announced at that press conference that his intention was to leave Tottenham after 10 years. Said that it was one of the hardest decisions he's ever had to make. But Son Heung-min decided that his intention was to leave Tottenham, and the destination that he'll be going to will be in the MLS for Los Angeles FC. So, Pearse, Son Heung-min leaving Spurs, what's your thoughts on that?
He should have left Tottenham a long time ago. I think he should have left when Harry Kane left, and I think he should. If he's leaving Tottenham, he shouldn't be going to MLS. I think that's a mistake, my personal opinion. Obviously, he will be teaming up with his former teammate, and obviously Hugo Lloris, who's obviously the goalkeeper there at LAFC. But like you say, he played his final match. I watched the match. Obviously, he played Newcastle in the Kupang play series here in obviously South Korea, which was based in Seoul at the World Cup Stadium. He was in tears, and he got a guard of honour from both sets of players, which I thought was a remarkable gesture from both sets of players, Newcastle and Tottenham, all hugging him, and obviously knew it was his final match. And obviously, just like you mentioned, he's 33, right? I know you probably think in football terms that's old, but he isn't that old. Like he's still the captain for South Korea. He's still the main man. He was still the main man last season for Tottenham. And that Thomas Frank still wanted to keep him. So, but I think maybe he might have not been a starter anymore. In terms of his age and stuff like that, and in terms of couple injuries here and there. And he's also not got the pace he once had, blistering pace. But I think he could still do a job. I think, for example, I thought he should have went to probably somewhere like Barcelona or Bayern Munich, like that level of club. Like I think he's good enough to play for that caliber of team. And like say you mentioned 10 years, I think that's a remarkable achievement to stay at one club for 10 years. It's quite uncommon, especially for foreign players that never came to the country before. And then they also just kind of he never spoke the language, he kind of learned the language, took in the culture, and obviously became a fan for life now. And he's an icon at the club, obviously. 10 years, 454 games, 173 goals, 101 assists. He won the FIFA Puskas Award back in 2020 with that solo goal from his own half against Burnley, which was incredible. He was also the Golden Boot winner back in 21-22, joint with Mohamed Salah with 23 goals. And obviously the crowning glory last season, won the Europa League with Tottenham under Ange Postecoglou. So he leaves a club legend, somewhat to Harry Kane. And obviously he's leaving, and he's also getting his club a fee of around €15 million with a year left in his contract. And he said he didn't want to leave for free, which was a nice gesture from him. But for me, I think it's a sad day to see him leave Tottenham, because you just when you think of Son, you think Tottenham, and I think a lot of the South Korean fans that support Tottenham now is only because of Son and what he's done, because like you say, he is like the golden boy of South Korean football, especially in this modern era. So I think it's a sad day, and I think his next destination looks like LAFC, but I think it's edging closer. But I think for me, I think he could have done a bit better in terms of a move. But sad to see him leave Tottenham.
Yeah, it is sad to see him leave Tottenham. First of all, as a player, I mean, what a player he has been for Tottenham. I mean, he arrived in 2015. Actually, I mean, I vaguely remember him at the start of his Tottenham career. He didn't get off to a great start. He didn't get in the team. He couldn't get in the team. And then I remember he had a sort of, like, I can't remember who was like, somebody got injured in the Tottenham team and he came in, and I don't think he ever came out of the team after that. He just came on leaps and bounds, and he was, I mean, that partnership he had with Harry Kane is right up there with the best partnerships we've seen in the Premier League. I mean, they've linked up with each other so well. Son down that left hand side, and Harry Kane in the centre. He he didn't win as many. He only won one trophy, and that was his last season in Europa League, and that's what I think has made his decision. I think he's thought, right, I've won a trophy now. That trophy that everyone's wanting. I think that'll be me. That's after 10 years. I think I've done my job as captain as well. And I also think as well that I think for the last few years, to be fair, I don't think he has been the same player. Especially the last couple of seasons I've watched him, I don't think he's not the same Son that I remember seeing, post 2020, with that blistering pace and that he could go down either side and he could score goals easily with his left foot or right foot. I haven't really seen a lot of that recently. So maybe I think he was thinking that I don't think he was going to get in the team as much because obviously Tottenham have signed Kudos this summer as well. And I'm thinking maybe, his game time is going to be limited. I'm quite not disappointed, but I'm quite surprised that he's decided to go to MLS. I definitely think he could, as you said, I think he definitely can still play in Europe and one of the top teams in Europe. I think he's definitely still got that in him to do that. So the fact that at 33 he's decided to go to MLS, I think is quite surprising. It's a record. I think it's a record deal for the MLS as well. I think it's 15, 20 million they're signing them for. Um, you know, so I was quite surprised at that, but that doesn't matter. The fact that he is leaving and what a player he has been. We talked about the player, but I mean, what a guy he is as well. Because I mean, I don't think I've ever heard anyone saying a bad thing about Son. I think every player that's played with him has said how much a great guy is, and I think that's quite a lot. That's quite one of the big things you can take out of it is what a guy has been and what a guy is. So yeah, that's quite big news there. Son leaving Tottenham. There is also, in terms of European transfer news, there is also lots of stuff coming up. We've got the saga of Isak in Liverpool. That's looking really interesting to see. I think it's obviously Isak's desperate to move there. Liverpool have put in a bid. They rejected it. So I'll be interested to see how that unfolds in the weeks. We've got Benjamin Sesko, the Leipzig forward. Newcastle really interested in him. It looks like to be the Isak replacement. But Man United are also really interested in him. So Man United and Newcastle have both put bids in. And he's now up to check.
He is a Man United fan as well, so
yeah. And it's up to Chesko to decide where he wants to go. So things like that are really interesting to see what happens.
also got Darwin Nunez, I think, is edging close to Saudi as well. But like you say, we mention these things when it's completely confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. We'll discuss that more when it is confirmed. But it's going to be an interesting last few weeks of the window. We're in August now. End of August is when the transfer window ends. So obviously we'll keep up to date with it in the podcast to come. So for the final part of the show, Pearse will now give his Asian football roundup.
Yeah, so there was no J League One action. There was only one game in the K League One because obviously with the K League All Stars was playing Newcastle United. Then we had FC Seoul playing Barcelona, and most recently we had Diego FC playing Barcelona as well in part of the summer. So the one game that was played, which was on Saturday, the 2nd of August, which was Ulsan HDFC 2, Suwon FC 3. And that was a significant result because Ulsan HD have now sacked their manager, Kim Pan-Gon, and Ulsan suffered yet another defeat in what was his final game in charge. The club now sit just 3 points above the relegation playoff places. And this is a side that have won the last 2 titles in Korea. So from going from champions to potential relegation, the club has pulled the plug. And they've not wasted time, and they've now hired former Indonesian national team manager Shim Tae-Yong as his replacement. In terms of the league table, it pretty much stays the same. Top of the table, Jeonbuk, 54 points. Gimcheong Sangmu, second, 39. And then Daejeon Hana Citizen also on 39 points. with 6 goals less than Gimchon. And it bought with Daegu FC, 14 points, cut adrift massively. And for me, it's looked as if, for me, they're gone. 24 games played, 14 points, minus 21 goal difference. And 11th in the playoff, the first day 2 playoff place, FC Anyang on 27. And in 10th position, you've got Suwon on 28. So they need a miracle to stay in the league. And they've got the miracle man that is probably, for me, arguably the best player in the league, in Cecilia. If you watch, I don't know if you've heard about Cecilia, Tom, in Korea, but for me, the Brazilian playmaker, he's the captain, he's the best player. I don't know who plays for Daegu, because for me, he's head and shoulders above every other player in the league. He's an unbelievable footballer. And if there's one man that can save the club from relegation, it's him. And in terms of other Asian football news, we've got Esteghlal FC, the Iranian side to compete in the Persian Gulf Pro League, have announced of the signing of Gwangju FC winger Jasir Asani. The club stated that while he is scheduled to join the club in January, they are working to bring him in sooner. For me, that's a devastating blow, obviously. I live in Gwangju. For me, he's the best player in the side by a country mile. So it's a massive loss to Gwangju. And obviously, there's a wee bit of nostalgia, Tom. So there's an unlikely visitor to the K-League 2 match at the weekend between Jeonnam Dragons and Cheongnam Asan FC. As former Liverpool midfielder Lucas Leiva was in the stands to take in a match. What's your thoughts on that?
That's a bit mad. I'm trying to think why he would be there. I have no idea. I mean, I don't know any Brazilians play for them, and I don't know. I'm trying to think. I have no idea why he would be there. That's the most random thing I've heard today. Lucas Leiva at a match like that.
But not even the first division, the second division of Korea.
I know, it's mad, isn't it? But it's good to see, but because like these kind of players that are obviously they're not in the limelight. So the fact that they see a player like Lucas Leiva, who's the career he's had, that obviously gives them a bit of a confidence boost to see that there's top players from around the world that are coming to see their matches. So yeah, that is quite mad. But
yeah, so that's all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pearse, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening and see you soon.
Bye-bye.